We are live.
It's like I'm not gonna.
He's live but ready. What are your thoughts on the entire situation?
Well, I guess.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
How we doing? Welcome everyone. Next live stream, I promise, we'll have that intro. It's just almost done. So it's just Patty and me today. Yeah. Well, no, we need an intro. It's
We
just that
do, we
quiet
do.
little awkwardness when everyone comes in. How's everyone doing today? So
Moto Jedi, he says, how we looking? Is this a shakeout pump or are we finally moving up? I mean, I think it looks like we're moving up. I think we got close enough. XRP got close enough to touching that, 50-day moving average. So I think the market had its pullback to chill off for a minute, and we're back to it now.
yeah, it does seem like everything's like Bitcoin moved back up, or all the big tokens moved up. DeFi is booming. Even the VC investment side, like I've come across today. I don't know if anyone noticed this. I didn't get a chance to tweet it out yet, but there's a new investor for Flare Networks. I think it was ID Capital, something like that. They were really
DL, yeah.
IDL, and I got 4,000 retweets. Just some of their posts on Twitter. I mean, they invested in hundreds of DeFi protocols. So we looked into a few, and just the fact that they said we're looking forward to working on unlocking value with you, the Flare network. So we're going to see that more and more. It's going to happen rapidly, and it's going to be fast, and ecosystem just going to boom, and you're like, what's happening here? What's this project? What's that project? But Flare, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's definitely how it is on Ethereum.
It's going to get like that. I mean, and the thing is that it's not going to be stopped. Like, these things are just going to keep going, and they're going to keep developing. As long as there's no major fallout or investors get really scammed by something that it brings attention, the CFTC is letting it run. So I know everyone's focusing on the SEC, the SEC, the SEC. But meanwhile, we have this DeFi ecosystem just rapidly expanding across all different networks, interoperability's happening, and it's only a matter of time before that's going to be mature enough to where it's going to pull in the traditional markets. And that's like the future we see here. After looking at everything, it's probably not going to be what it's like now, where it's so immature and it's just difficult and clunky and gas fees and complicated. It's going to be easy, and they're just going to be able to bring their money on. And I just think that's going to have such an impact on just how the future develops, with, CBDCs and everything, I think genie's out the bottle.
Yeah, and I mean, institutions, they need to see these networks be proven for a good amount of time before they entrust, people that are invested with them, or if they're custodying fiat and it's a bank, they need to know that everything is completely fine. All the legal stuff is set out. It's very hard for, any company that's not made to be exclusively forward thinking. So, yeah, it's just, we just got to see these things keep building out. And as more value leaves the traditional market and goes into crypto, it's going to give them more of a push in that direction if that's where all the demand is going and everything. So
absolutely, yeah. So you think of the waves, how things came. It was speculate. It was Silk Road. Then it was speculation run. And now that in 2017 and all, ICO boom and a lot of overhyped stuff. But now this is not a repeat of the ICO boom, but it is a Cambrian explosion of basically the beginnings of new financial primitives. So now in 2018, there would be people like Gensler who would have, speeches and say, oh, we're going to have investor protections and we're going to regulate the endpoints for everything. Because they assume that, oh, you're just speculating on Bitcoin, you're going to come in and you're going to go out. So that's where we're going to regulate it. Now, there's a financial system being built within that does all the things, for most of the things that you could do in the traditional markets and get higher yield, use the dollar, use different types of new financial products and services that are just going to keep expanding with high yield, and that's just going to keep growing and growing. So how does the regulators regulate this stuff? What they thought they were going to regulate in 2018 is now totally different. So I have faith in the CFTC. I really think that they get it, and they're going to do like the reg tech style.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I already think the innovations already clearly bypass them. So, if the value continues to move into crypto, then, larger players like in the tech industry and finance industry are going to want to move in as well. And, we all know how lobbying goes in the US and everything. So, if that's where they want to move, they can go ahead and start lobbying like all these lawmakers over the next year or two to, get the kind of regulations they want or laws set around this stuff. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't think that the U.S. government's going to be able to clamp down on all this stuff. I think there's just too many paths for them to be circumvented, and then they risk, losing people from the traditional system like altogether if they just completely start doing everything on these decentralized blockchains. It's like, I mean, our economy is not like in the greatest of places right now, so like they definitely don't need value draining from the system. So like all these regulators, lawmakers need to be very careful with like the steps they take at this point. But,
yes, yeah. And that's a great point you bring up there. They have to be cautious because, and we talked about this in the past, it's the third world and Asia that is going to, once it's affordable and it's easy access and it's mature enough, just that inexpensive, you could put in $50 and you could get a loan for a day to do this in Africa and that in Indonesia. They all have mobile phones. That's all you need. So they have the tool to access everything right away. And the U.S., is going, as even if they resist and make it difficult for the on-ramps and off-ramps, there is going to be a demand from Wall Street, like hedge funds who are looking for yield, and they see certain, inroads. I just don't think there's any yet for those type of entities. The market's just not mature enough for, institutions and hedge funds and, actual, pension funds to actually invest in like a DeFi index fund or synthetics and stuff like that. Not yet. But I think we're going to see that soon because CeFi is going to bridge it all together. And, this whole market is evolving. I don't know if everyone's noticing it. Like, I have a whole different perspective than in 2018. I don't know about you, Patty. Like, how did you think 2 years ago at this time? And, what was your perspective on the market? Like, where we would be heading in 5 years?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really know much about DeFi. I look back on how I thought about things in 2018, and I'm like, I didn't know jack. So, I mean, I used to just sit here waiting. Like, I used to be of the mindset that like, oh yeah, the institutions will drive this thing, or like the whole trope about XRP, how it's just like one day everything's going to come online. But I mean, I think it's pretty clear that's not going to happen at this point. Like things are just going to keep moving along and it's going to grow and it's going to grow. And then at some point we'll be like, how did we get here? And, all of the, basically a lot of finance is running on blockchains at that point. But,
exactly.
It's going to be a journey. Like it's going to be a long journey. I mean, you think like in 2030, it's like, that's probably when we get to that point, maybe 2025 and there's a lot going on. But it's like, outside of some like crazy market event happening, I mean, I think that kind of stuff can still affect what's going to happen in the long term, like with the traditional markets. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's going to be keep going as long as yields over on the blockchain side and it's not available in the traditional market. People are going to continually leave and bring their value onto all the stuff that's being built with DeFi and new blockchains and all that.
I think 2030. I'll put it a little more
Yeah, that's gonna
aggressive
be
than that. But you know what?
space then.
Well, what does it mean with there? Like when you have time frames, like well, what does that mean? 2030. What happens then at that point? You know, it's just going to keep going in stages as new uh, difficulties and you know flaws and basically hurdles are overcome with new innovation like privacy, identity, um, uh, basically credential verification, authentication. As they could do that more and abstract it and allow institutions to come in where they could just build a nice front end and then interact with all these applications that are being built. That's where we're seeing this future. And like, you know, 2-3 years ago, it was store value and institutions are going to use this and it was a speculative asset. No, nobody really that I knew. I mean, in the Bitcoin and XRP, maybe the Ethereum people saw it. I didn't expect the financial market to develop this rapidly to where they're creating, mimicking the same financial products in better ways, and that whole 99% of these tokens are going to disappear thing that went in the opposite direction. So, that's a trend that we just have to acknowledge right now. Like that ICO boom, it ended, but they got around it, and now they're just exploding. And the advances are going to happen more with these programmable money to where the tokens are going to be doing different things. There's no I don't think there's going to be no chosen, asset or token necessarily or protocol. It's going to be whoever's best positioned and has the most use cases. That's why, I just want to acknowledge one thing. I promised the person I would because they DM'd me and they were worried, very worried that there could be a private ledger and there could be another XRP for banks and central banks to use. And I said, can I use this as an example? And I go, I want to tell you why that is not even something you should even be thinking about. And it's not even possible technically. But the reason being is that XRP's best attribute is that it is neutral and nobody can control it. That's what will make it be used by everybody in the central banks. That's why it needs as many use cases in lending and into DeFi, into web monetization. It's not just for one use case only. I mean, I think we're past that now. Patty, and I even got the hint from Brad Gollinghouse that they're looking to expand the verticals like ODL, they're in between. How can they ramp up a global ODL without CBDCs if they're not launching them yet, right?
Yeah.
The banks aren't updating, they're not, basically they don't have token-based systems yet. They're still all account-based everything. And until the capital markets and that really updates that you could interconnect them all together to the ledgers, which they're trying to do in a ledger. I mean, when you look at who's best positioned, there is nobody close that's better positioned with a full payment network that has that many payment providers, market makers, banks, all in a network already. So once they could provide those distributed applications and those institutional DeFi products, then they'll come into that ecosystem first. So that's a point of, floodgates opening time. That could be at the same time, like Patty, say the dollar starts collapsing, or we start seeing the inflation and things start getting rocky in traditional markets.
Well, we're already starting to see that stuff too. I mean, like the dollar index kind of topped out after its dead cat bounce. So, and then also prices are surging. I don't know if you've seen lumber prices have gone up huge percentages in the past few months. So I mean, it's starting to hit some of consumer goods and stuff like that. So, I mean, and this brings me into another thing with projecting what's going to happen this bull run. I mean, if the Fed's going to continue to print easy money and the central banks around the world are going to continue to do the same, and then on top of that, there's going to be basically no yield other than going into stocks through the traditional market. I mean, it's just, I think more value is just going to keep getting driven into the crypto markets. So, I mean, we may just see massive crashes like we did over the weekend on the way up. But if it's moving up at such an exponential pace, that's bound to happen. I just don't see this tapering off anytime soon. and the whole crypto market going in the gutter for another 2 years. Like, this is a totally different situation than 2017, in my opinion. Like, we went through a pandemic where the world was locked down for a lot of time. I mean, that basically killed the money velocity. So inflation couldn't hit while they've been printing trillions of dollars around the world, or, any currency's fiat. So, I think we're in a totally different just atmosphere and climate in general. And we're seeing more exposure to way more people this time around. I can just say from my own, like when I was getting in during the last bull run in 2017, 2018, the amount of people that are around now is exponentially higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are seeing this maintain whatever amount of money they have and hopefully make some on top. It's just like, unless you're investing, you have to invest in stocks pretty much or crypto right now to get yield. So, I think it's just a totally different situation than previous bull run.
Good point. And to add to that, with this next, if there is a market downturn, there are now opportunities that are going to be abundant where you don't have to cash out. You could just earn consistent yields throughout now these downturns and when the market isn't bullish. So as you have these opportunities to just set yourself up with yield streams, so one bull run push will elevate you. Now you put your money in the right place to keep compounding it, and then as the market goes up or down, you're still earning. So then you don't have to sit through that bear market the same. So that will actually keep a floor there because now you have yield and you have people still, earning. And I still think we're going to see still a wave of institutional. Like the innovation is moving at a pace where it's beyond just Bitcoin now. Like, the last bull run, it was just Bitcoin led and it was all speculation. This one, there's a new financial products being built. Like, there's real things. The central banks won't even acknowledge this yet. That scares them because it's like, wait, what? That was speculative. It's not money. But now, wait, you're building a capital markets too? So I think at some point there could be some kind of backlash, but they can't really do much about it. It's just going to keep expanding. But hopefully it makes it easier for the everyday people. Like imagine like PayPal allowing you to earn, a nice yield and it accesses a DeFi product, but the user just holds it in their wallet and they get the safety of PayPal and just that whole interface, but they get these higher yields. And an aggregator just makes profit then in between, and PayPal makes money. That's what I see happening, that aggregating service that will connect a lot of these things and abstract it, because the yields are going to be off the charts because they're able to do it. And then people don't need to sell if they could do this, right? So I think that would limit the market crash.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying, especially for like a long run bear market. It's like, yeah, we can always have flash crashes if just like enough people panic and sell. But, for a bear market to ensue for that long, I think a lot of people that are moving into crypto are there to stay more so than last time, which, lends into the whole DeFi thing. And, how we were talking about earlier with like, how are we there? Like when are we there? Like, what does that mean? And to me, it's, right now, like this stuff is crazy to keep up with, like looking at all the stuff on Ethereum and then like what Flare's coming out with. And then you got like Polkadot, Cosmos, you got all kinds of stuff. Like ADA is about to have smart contracts and, there's all kinds of new protocols popping up, but it's like, what normal person can keep up with that if you're not ingrained in the space? So yeah, like with these yield aggregators, they need to be presented in an easy enough way for, everyday people around the world that don't spend all their time and finances to do. So I think that's where we need to get to, along with just like, more interoperability is going to be helpful, and then like figuring out wallets and identity. But yeah, I think like ease of use and access is something big that still needs to be worked on for sure.
Absolutely. All right. So I pulled up this very easy to read. It's one of the better diagrams that I found that kind of like really pinpoints all the different layers and types of products, financial products, and services that are already out there and how they stack up from a core infrastructure to the middle, finance, stability, and then consumer, and then legacy. And these components are all going to be built on top of these blockchains, and they'll be interoperable. So this is why there's no like one that will win. It has many use cases as they could get, and as much value they could accrue. So starting at the bottom layer here with oracles, this is important. Oracle is one of the major problems with, most blockchains. Like Chainlink, has temporarily been able to hold it down for Ethereum's DeFi, but it's a long term. It's not going to be the ideal solution the way it's just designed, because Flare has a built-in decentralized oracle. So that is something that is unique at this infrastructure layer here. So that's important to have. And then, moving up from there, you got your smart contracts and interoperability. This is all Interledger and Ethereum EVM. So that core right here, I think, compared to, say, Ethereum and like Chainlink, like if you had to compare these different core infrastructures to what Flare has, I mean, it's not hype. I mean, it's just designed better. I mean, they have the Oracle system built in, so you combine those two. Now you create a market of oracles, and then you move on top of that with privacy and smart contracts. So privacy, I think that's where, like a RippleNet would come in, or Interledger. You could keep transactions private. But now we move into the real exciting stuff. This middle category here is where all the money's to be made, right, Patty? Are you seeing this?
Yeah, absolutely. I see it. Yeah.
So, the other thing I want to bring up is, I forgot about before, is that we didn't talk about is the DEX. So that decentralized exchange volume compared to the centralized exchange volume in the last bull run. Mm-hmm. So there's so much more volume coming onto the chains and trading that there's less and less of that manipulation that could really happen in those centralized exchanges, where the big whales are the market makers and they just set the prices. Decentralized exchanges, anyone can be a liquidity provider. So it opens up the market to every more participants. It's more of a fair system. So that's going to, I think, get, it's easy to use. You just swap between one asset to another. Why would I need to go back to an exchange to go do this trade and do that? If it's going to be able to be done from your wallet and it's in the ecosystem you want to do it, you'll just stay there and do it. So that's the liquidity and market making. We found a new way that you don't need to have these order books and have somebody just put up orders on both sides, right? Now we could put up the liquidity and profit from that. That gives it just changes the dynamics of the market system compared to traditional markets, where the market makers are the ones putting up the prices. And then what is it with the high frequency trading?
Yeah, exactly.
So how does that compare in like the traditional markets? That's a major issue. Like the high frequency trading is a non-issue right here in decentralized liquidity pools.
I mean, so you can still, like, if you have faster access to get to these things, like arbitrage and stuff is going to be right for high frequency trading and things of that nature. Now, like, I am interested in if, like, let's say institutions coming on, if they're going to want some kind of like what they kind of use today are like dark pools where you can't really see what's going on inside of them. So that's that's a big part of high frequency trading, at least in the traditional market, is that they can front run people in basically these like black pits that people don't have insight into. But like, as far as the like liquidity pools and stuff, like, we're just moving into a much more fluid market. I think like a lot of the different aspects of traditional finance are like broken up and not easily, like, they're not really composable or tradable with each other. So like providing synthetics of these assets, or any kind of derivatives and stuff on a blockchain where they can immediately be exchanged for some other value that may not be the same asset class as it, I think is just like a massive plus for DeFi in general.
It is.
Like just being able to swap from like, let's say you have some kind of like commodity or whatever, like access to that, and then swapping it for a stock, like pretty seamlessly. Like that process in the modern world would take a while to get that.
Yeah, even
and
if
let
you,
alone just matching up with somebody. So yeah.
even if you got to go through 2 liquidity pools quick, like it just happens, boom, 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 and it's all right there in your wallet, and it's going to be much easier. And Flare, I mean FXRP, XRP in general, has not had access to really DeFi. Like you got these little things like Chain, you know, it hasn't had the ability to get into Ethereum and build up its value. Well, all these other things, excuse me, have, you know, established some use case or value, like the governance tokens. You have the big 3, Compound, Aave, and Maker. I mean, those are seriously, you know, taking off and being used for purposes to manage, you know, their financial, you know, parameters of the ecosystem. Now, with the way Flare is designed, the whole network has a much better governance than, you know, Ethereum has, and even Polkadot, I think, even, and Cosmos. So what could be built on there, I think, is going to be, you know, I just think of a higher level, but it's not going to be the first. And it has XRP, and it has these other assets that are going to have value. So this is our chance, I think, for XRP to really, from Ripple and Flare, to just, you know, market the hell out of it when we get clarity, because, you know, it has the value, and it has the speed, and it has the ledger, and it has now the smart contracts. It's just you're giving it superpowers, literally, and it comes with yield. So, I mean, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to mint FXRP. Well, do what you want to do. I'm minting mine. And to the question before, somebody asked, are you still holding your XRP? Of course I'm holding my XRP. And been accumulating. I'm going to continue to.
I mean, it's hard to sell back into fiat right now with any crypto.
And I don't intend to sell that much, you know, exit strategy wise. I mean, you know, as these opportunities come up to set yourself up as the values increase of your assets, and then you could use that to earn new assets like yield farming, YFIN. Just putting it in a one-sided pool. It's just you're earning this new governance token that then you take it and you just stake it, and it's then going to earn more yield. And if you could set yourself up in these ways early, that's where I think the wealth is going to be built the most from, instead of thinking the switch is going to be flipped tomorrow. Like, yeah, maybe like there is a possible chance of that if, you know, who knows? I don't think there's a high chance of that. I'm not banking on that.
I won't rule it out.
I won't rule it out.
So
I won't rule it out. Yeah, it's been so long.
I don't have faith in that kind of thing anymore. Yeah.
No, it's that these assets need to have use cases. But one thing that, you know, I think Ripple and XRP do have that's unique compared to all this other DeFi stuff is Ripple already has the open protocols. They already have a payment network. They already have institutional partners. They already have a liquidity network, basically. They have custodial exchange wallets. They have banks. I mean, literally bank partners. And they're working with central banks. And they're doing things in a regulatory compliant way. So when it comes to, you know, complying with the travel and the FinCEN rule, that's probably going to be, I think, the next thing that will, you know, could put a damper on, you know, the market. Like something like that happening. In reality.
So, yeah, I just saw a good question in the chat that I don't know if I'll be able to address it to the level that King Alex wants me to, but he said, don't you lose all your XRP, XLM, and replace it with the F asset version? Is this really worth it? So, yeah, there's a few things to take into account when you're doing this. You are giving up your XRP or XLM or some other asset, but you have a claim on those assets at any time that you can redeem them. So that's like part of the whole the network and the connection with like the XRP ledger being trustless. And then on top of that, I mean, you need to figure out exactly what you're going to be able to earn with that FXRP or FXLM. It depends on when you're going to enter into the Flare network. The rewards are highest on day one, and they're only going to get lower from that point on. So that's like one thing to take into account, but you also need to, you know, feel confident in bringing your assets over. And we haven't gotten the security audit or any of that stuff yet. So like that's kind of the next step in deciding there. But I mean, if you look at how much they're basically delivering 833 million Spark per month through the FTSO rewards, and that doesn't even require you to bring over any F assets. And then as far as the F assets go, it's probably
I think it was like 50. It was like
40
million a day. Yeah. Spread out amongst your F assets. So these are going to be, literally subscribed, and they're just going to be released to then your wallet address if you're, have your F asset on the Flare network. Literally, you'll be just a percentage, your dollar value of all the other F assets, and it's just going to come, and it's going to be Spark.
You're going to be exponentially growing what you currently have, because if you're compounding daily and receiving rewards daily, like even if you're getting like 0.1 or 0.5% daily, if you compound that over 6 months or an entire year, that increases what you currently have by a lot, like your current wealth or whatever your current stake is in the assets you're using on Flare. So it's the compounding daily, because that increases the exponent that's going into like what you're going to receive interest wise or through a yield. So that's like one of the biggest points is it's like you're getting all these assets daily, and then you can deploy them immediately into other ways to earn. And then you're going to have Flare Finance come online eventually. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be able to earn there, and you can move around. When Trustline comes, you can go with like, over collateralizing and get a safer, basically a safer, lower risk product by minting Ari and stuff like that. So it's like once you get on, there's going to be a lot of options. At first, it'll start off slow just because the Flare network's going to come on. The F asset system will go a couple weeks after the system officially launches, and then we're going to have Flare Finance come on, and they have like, 6 or 7 ways to earn yield just right off the bat. Like, if we look at your chart here, they're basically going to have, they're offering a stable coin, Cross USD, which is Tether, USDC, and one other coin. And then you're going to have a DEX with the Flare swap platform, Flare X.
Flare loans,
liquidity, Flare loans.
Yeah, you'll have a
Trustline come on. Yeah. After that. So, and then we know there's like different companies trying to tokenize like real estate and stocks in the future that are looking at building on the Flare network. So, like they've even said there's a lot of partners that we don't know about. Like I remember them saying this a month or so ago. Hugo went on an interview and was like, yeah, there's like several people that we don't know about yet, basically, that aren't ready to like reveal that they're building. And then also they just announced the other day on Twitter that there's some NFT platform that everybody knows that they're going to announce on May 8th. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to come online. And I think once we see this open source code go, like it finally come out and they're ready to reveal all that and start doing the testing, we'll get a lot more information. We're like just in a dry zone right now.
Yeah, I just want to go to the Flare and show everyone the new investment today that happened.
Yeah.
So this is a big... I thought this was pretty big. I don't know if anyone picked up on it, though. And here. So, right here. So, see this LD Capital? This is congratulations to Flare Network. Let's unlock value together. It got only 138 likes, and it didn't even get a comment. So, obviously, way over everyone's head. So, who is LD? I mean, that's like kind of embarrassing, kind of. All right. Who is LD Capital? They just happen to get 4,800 likes. So, they have a huge portfolio. So, they are an Asian investment VC investor in DeFi. So look at this ecosystem of products. I know it might not zoom in, but we got Flare here. So there's Flare. And then, I mean, it's just a huge ecosystem. These are all different types of new protocols and things coming out that will work together. I don't know how many of these will be involved with Flare. I don't know. I didn't go through them all yet. But I'm just saying we have new... This is how you connect all these things together to build on Flare, and how they have those connections to make them composable. So you're having this financial market being built for us, in front of us. But I'm just noticing that a lot of the you know, the XRP community is just not seeing it. I mean, you don't have to be hypey about it and say, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing in the world, but you have to definitely start looking into what is going on in the rest of the market, and, you know, the overpaying attention with the SEC, the regulations, and that's fine, and that does affect us, but this is moving so fast. Videos of Gary Gensler from 2018 mean absolutely nothing right now. I just want to say that. Like, that means absolutely nothing right now. And there's no regulating endpoints anymore because I don't need to come off to the regulated endpoint. We could just stay on and make our yield here. So that changes the game. And you can't regulate basically these new token issuances that are taking place through either yield farming, or now they're issuing them through like DeFi liquidity pools. Nobody's investing money, so they're not ICOs. So all that talk about, oh, we're going to regulate investor protection, well, just eliminate the SEC. There's nothing they could do. So it's exploding, and it's just gaining, and it's just growing. I mean, and the SEC's sitting here, pretending like it's 2017 or 2015. Meanwhile, they ignored the Ethereum ICO boom, and there is an important factor to this, the CFTC. If they wanted to, they could clamp down really hard on pretty much all of the DeFi things that are being built. It's violation of the Commodities and Exchange Act, but they're choosing not to because they see the innovation, and they even talk of a safe harbor. But they're a completely different agency than the SEC. And I think that's just important to note. Like, that's the regulator for DeFi, and they're excited about it. And the SEC is just, has a different approach. And I think we see that, and we're like, oh, they're trying to crush the industry. But is everyone trying to crush the industry, or is it just that agency? So,
yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's a good point.
It is, because
I mean, and we have a whole world too. It's, it's the U.S. isn't just the only country out there. Whether we like to think it or not, but like the facts are that XRP is not even trading in the U.S. for the most part, minus Uphold. Which isn't even really like an exchange. Like, they source their trades from Bitstamp. So, but yet the XRP price is rising, and we see SBI and like their whole consortium out in Japan and Southeast Asia, like they're doing stuff right now. Like there's things outside the US's grasp. Is XRP really going to be a security when we know all these other countries that have already stated it's not? So it's just like,
yes,
one person isn't going to ruin it just on top of, in one regulatory agency. There's just too much going on. I don't know how they're going to clamp down on this stuff. They don't even know what it is. So it's going to continue to circumvent them. Like, that was the whole point of Bitcoin, was to circumvent the current financial system. And a lot of these people that are building projects out here are trying to do so to take it away from what we currently have access to, which is very minimal access, and it's capital intensive, like all the stuff in the traditional markets. But now crypto gives people, like just your average day person, an opportunity to get in and try and start earning money early on. I mean, like, if you just start with $1,000 at 20 and you just start, building yield off these different protocols that come out and everything, like, that's going to compound an insane amount by the time you're 40. But, like, there's not options like that right now. For everyday Americans, basically, you just sit there and have a 401k and, are like, okay, hopefully the stock market's up like 5 to 10% this year. Or, hopefully I don't get to retirement and the whole stock market's going to crash and I'm going to lose my retirement. That's like a very real thing that happened for people in the past year. And it's happened multiple times before. So, like, people want to get away from this. And as they start to understand it, it becomes more easy to use. And, I think these like yield aggregators that are being built out are like outstanding things, whoever, does that in the right way, because it's going to allow people access to these markets without like having to do an insane amount of work that a lot of people that are currently in them have to do.
Exactly. So, well said, because it's coming. So, I just look at this market completely different. Like, crypto is, yes, there's the values, the market, the price going up, bull market, speculation, but the market's just evolving and it's going into its own financial, system. It's a new financial market and it's going to just keep jumping. But we haven't yet had that, opportunity to do all these things. Ethereum has been very difficult, and the gas fees, some people were able to do it, got in early. But there is one thing that's different that with Flare is that you could earn the yield at basically no risk and still maintain and hold your assets from at the protocol layer. So that's something that then allows you to build up all these assets and then use those in the more higher risk DeFi protocols. So it's how you manage that. It's going to attract a massive amount of yield aggregators.
Yeah, I mean, it's ripe for doing that because there's a lot of people that are, I mean, you just see with like the whole Dogecoin thing that happened, like a ton of new people are just getting in that way. And, maybe they got in because it's a meme or they want to try out something new. And, if they can see these like new ways to earn yield that don't require too much effort on their part, I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. So how is that going to be delivered? But yeah.
All right. So we got a question here. How to get started with the Flare staking. All right. The F asset system you're talking about, EM Robinson, right? I don't know. Did you go into that with the details on that? Because that's the one detail.
I'm honestly not sure what he's asking.
Your XRP. You don't stake your XRP on Flare for any. You don't even have to stake it. You just bring it over to Flare, and you're earning Spark daily, just for bringing it there. That's it. And then you could use it in the example here in the Probity vault as collateral to then borrow a stable coin and do whatever with it, or lend that stable coin and earn more interest while your FXRP is going up in value if the capital is appreciating. Plus, you're earning your daily Spark, which then gives you two forms of revenue stream, which is staking it in the F asset system and delegating the vote. And these things will happen. The signal provider FTSO, I think it was .uk, put out a diagram and showed that how you want, as you delegate your FTSO vote to them to earn Spark, as you earn that new Spark, it'll automatically then send the new vote that you earned from the new Spark to them continuously. So they can just keep compounding. But there is no step-by-step process yet, EM Robinson, because they haven't given details of everything. I mean, we've tried to cover it, but, Patty, there's certain things we don't want to assume when we don't know the specifics yet.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered basically like what you'll be able to do, but like they still haven't finished, constructing the whole network. So we can't necessarily show people how to do it at this point, unfortunately. I do have EM. There is on our website, the DeFiStandard.com, on the F assets page. It shows you some diagrams of like how you would mint an F asset and what the steps are in that. So you could check that out. We know how that will work for an originator that wants to mint FXRP. Mickey has some like of his older videos in the Flare Networks playlist on his channel, has basically like diagrams showing you where you're going to be able to put all your like assets and stuff. So those are good ways to start. And as we get the info, we'll definitely come out with some step-by-step stuff, because I know a lot of people want that.
Yes.
And Mickey, I wanted to touch on one other thing.
Go ahead.
So Flare Community put out an interesting video today where he basically did a poll on Twitter, and I think he got like 7 or 8K responses to see which communities will be minting F assets. So it's XRP, Doge, Litecoin, and Stellar. And basically 3.4% of the respondents said they would mint FLTC. And we're all aware that the FLTC will have its own rewards pool of 5 billion. And so like, it's possible that it would be much more lucrative to mint FLTC than any of the other F assets. It's going to be dependent on price and stuff. But the other big point to factor in there is that in the Flare blogs, they said that a reasonable amount of FLTC needs to be minted to trigger the rewards from that pool.
Wow.
Otherwise, they will be put into the general F asset rewards pool. So, I mean, I'm possibly like interested in getting some Litecoin for it. Yeah, it's definitely a strategy to keep a lookout for, but we need to know like what that threshold is, and then you got to decide how realistic it is. So, I mean, if you want to go ahead and get Litecoin for it, I would just make sure that's the asset you want to hold for now. Otherwise, like wait on some of that info. But it's definitely a valid strategy to look at going into this thing. We just got to wait and see what that threshold may actually be. Like the way they described it, they're like a reasonable threshold needs to be met. They didn't say like there might be a threshold or something like that. They said it like pretty definitively. So I imagine that they're gonna have one. So the other
they can
reason,
limit it.
The other reason is in Flare Communities analysis, he basically came up with a fair allocation based on like how many people would be minting. And you know, I think a lot of us assume Litecoin is not gonna mint a lot of FLTC just based on what we know about the community. So we'll have to see on that. I think 5 billion is a lot, especially when you compare the market caps. Like it's more Spark going to like a certain pool than on the other side. So I think they'll probably stand by that threshold. But we're just gonna have to see. It's just kind of a risk if you buy LTC and you don't, want to own it in particularly right now, other than for that reason. So I just want to address that. It's definitely something to keep an eye out for going forward.
Yes, it definitely is. And I mean, the Doge community, I think, will be the first to jump on. I think you'll see that. Yeah. And I think that there is a lot of the XRP community who holds XLM too, and they probably voted for XRP there in that sense. So it's all going to be dependent on, what's your percentage of that, distribution per day. So if it's 25 billion in there, and if it's 0.2%, it's going to be a lot. And in that first early days, some people are going to make out really big. It's just that's how it is. There's no limit on that pool, the general rewards. They're doing that to incentivize because they don't need to stake the token. So these could be rewarded to people and users instead of the block validators or miners. So this is a different type of network. Or like XRP and Ripple, they just kept the tokens. This one is one of the few blockchain, layer 1 networks with a native token that's basically able to be earned by users in 2 different ways. And you could earn with that native token XRP and these other assets as people mint them. So I mean, it's like eventually the market's going to figure out like this is pretty unique and there's a huge advantage here. You can't do this anywhere. Like there's a lot of great DeFi protocols and everything, but this is at the protocol layer, like at the base layer, and you have a trusted Oracle system built in. So I mean, it's not hype, it's just fact. The question is, will there be enough people who understand it in the beginning out the gate? That's, where we really got to just judge and see how the community reacts. I don't know.
Yeah. So I saw there's actually a question I want you to address. So it says 50KT said, will Binance Smart Chain copy Flare Network and just take the market share away? How is Flare strategically superior than Binance, who is aggressive with stealing the show? So I think he's definitely referencing on Ethereum how they've done like, copies basically. Yeah.
So basically that the only thing that Binance has that is similar is it has the Ethereum virtual machine. It has no decentralized Oracle built into it. It has no way of bringing over other assets and giving them yield. So basically, Binance Smart Chain does not pay anybody in BNB. You can't earn BNB, right? Where do you earn BNB? Unless you're a proof of stake validator, you can't earn BNB, right? But on Flare, you can just no risk delegate your vote and earn more Spark. you could bring over top crypto assets and earn daily yield. And also utilize these at the same time while you're doing that. So these are two unique characteristics that are different than Binance Smart Chain and also Ethereum. So that's a huge difference there. And the fact that you could earn like XRP, Litecoin, XLM, and when Bitcoin comes over with your Spark, like you can't do that anywhere else. And these are not like DeFi protocols. These are at the like base layer. So this is what you get when you don't use proof of stake and you don't use proof of work, and you're able to now create new reward models that incentivize behaviors because you're not using that to secure the network. And another thing that Flare has an advantage of is that it has these, the distribution of the token is kind of more of a neutral, decentralized way. Binance Smart Chain has this centralized aspect that the Ethereum people, they've been called because they only have, a small amount of validators, and all their wrapped tokens are just Binance bringing them over. It's not a trustless issuance, and, for U.S. people, that's like a big risk. What if you get locked out of Binance, the original one? Like it's very clunky. I know there is the bridge with Ethereum and that, but when it comes to XRP, Bitcoin holders, Litecoin holders, anyone in the top that's with these F assets, it's very easy for them to take their asset, bring it onto Flare seamlessly, and then utilize it and get yield with it. It's more clunky to get it on Binance Smart Chain. They do have the exchange built in. Flare also has XRP, and it has the built-in Oracle system, I guess we could say here.
Yeah, and I mean, that connection back to the XRP
Yes.
ledger can is a big deal in my opinion. Just like the ability for stuff to trade on the DEX there, like that's going to bring utility to XRP maybe before, ODL ramps up enough to do so.
Okay.
Or, demand essentially from utility rather.
Yes. And I feel like Binance Smart Chain kind of like there was a lot of just like quick launch copy and like, porting over of just the same thing on Ethereum just over there for like the next thing. And I feel like what Flare is building is more for multiple different use cases. It's not just to get a lot of random retail users and whales. It's to actually be used by, supply chain, other institutions. Like there's a multitude of different use cases that can all coexist on the same underlying network and smart contracts and interoperate with. So by having that Oracle system with the signal providers and the agents there, you create a dynamic marketplace around it. And that's where, the XRP Ledger has the ability to have the gateways on the on and off ramps. So that's the one advantage Binance has over Ethereum, I think. And I think we'll see that with like XRP and Flare. So does everyone know where Miguel Villas went to the board of directors to? I haven't seen that talked about much.
Digital asset management?
Yeah, digital asset management. So I'm not going to bring it up right now, but that is exactly the type of company that would be ideally suited, because they're regulated in Gibraltar as a broker-dealer, to open the door for institutional money, high net worth individuals, enterprises, apps, for fintech companies to utilize to enter into, the XRP ledger, to the Flare network. It's that gateway that's regulated. So I think we can see like those crypto custodians, these crypto banks, and the merging of CeFi. That's the next step here, because how is CeFi going to compete? Why wouldn't they just tap in themselves to DeFi? And what's that going to do? Bring more liquidity, bring more demand. And it's just going to snowball. I think more and more. And tokenization. So,
I mean,
this
there's
is a good
endless use
question.
cases. So, it's only going to grow as time goes on, as long as the network runs successfully and all that stuff. So, we'll just have to see how quickly it is. But yeah, go ahead.
Wow, this is an interesting question. I don't know. We'll have to answer this one together. Hey, B-Spec.
That's a tough one.
That's a good one though. Wow. Well, see, he's one of our Patreon members. He's up to he's at the top tier. Can you ever see a scenario where the governance would vote to increase the inflation rate to incentivize traditional commodities like gold to come over as F assets? Very interesting. So that would be, I don't think you would need to over collateralize as much. You're saying, so the inflation rate of the FTSO, right?
Yeah, so he's basically just wondering if governance would ever vote to move it up over 10%. So I mean, I guess what a reason you would want to do that is because for some reason you need to incentivize more participation. So
well, collateral, value.
Yeah, so like I guess the two situations is lack of participation, so they're going to increase the rewards for a short period of time with the inflation rate to incentivize that. Like maybe not enough, maybe the Spark governance decides that not enough people are participating in the FTSO. So they, for a short period of time, increase the rewards rate via inflation, since that's how inflation's delivered. I mean, I don't think that would be a good sign necessarily.
Oh, it would be really make out really well.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be a good sign for the current health of the network. Yeah. And then also if so much value's moving over so quickly, I could see maybe a situation where that's needed just because Spark is being used in so many other applications. And there just needs to be more Spark so it can be put into collateral for like whatever reason. There's a disconnect between the yields being earned with dApps and the yield from collateral. But there's other parameters you could adjust there, like the collateral ratio or what the creation fee is and things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm really hoping, because they said they might do like a bidding system for F asset creation. I'm like, if somebody wants to bring over an F asset, they should be able to pay whatever rate that they're willing to pay. You know what I mean? Like if they're willing to go over a certain amount to bring an F asset on because there's so much demand, I think that's a good idea. And then it also is going to, if that like creation fees rising, it'll incentivize agents to go and source more Spark off the open market and provide it as collateral to continue to meet that demand. But we'll see what they end up doing with that, if they make it fixed or
I think we'll see synthetic gold would be much easier to do without using the F asset system. I mean, I think that, having real gold, now you're going to be able to redeem for that gold. Like, that's what the F asset system is. Like, that's the question. Are you going to, if you're not able to redeem, well, for the value of that gold, in what then? In Spark? So, with the F asset, you have a claim back to XRP, so you have to claim the gold. But you have a price feed that you could get in there of gold, and you could just put up assets to back that, and it measures, and it just tracks the price of the gold. So, I mean, Synthetics is doing that in a lot of different networks. The idea of tokenization is going to be really interesting, because we have Sologenic. That's a project that is literally going to tokenize stocks, and the broker-dealer is going to hold them, and then you're going to be able to use those. But that mixed with like something like Synthetics, where you have, it's basically a synthetic asset that just tracks the price of the real asset. And what was the name of the project? Phantom, Patty?
Yeah, Phantom.
Phantom. Yeah. So they were underneath the umbrella of that ID Capital, I think, and it was like just happened the same day that they mentioned that investing in Flare. And that's a market of, it was pretty cool. They kind of mixed NFTs with the synthetics. So like an NFT could represent like a Tesla car and, the regular tokens. So we're starting to see a lot more composability. And I'm just going to throw out there a little hints. We did figure out how they're not using just like basic ERC20 standards for the F assets. So that's one thing that is different. They literally are super assets, and they said we called them superpowers, but literally found the abilities that they're giving them are unique. They really are. So it's not just a random thing. And it would be very difficult to do that on Ethereum, though. Even if you use that standard, you would need to match it still and register it. So that whole process of the claiming and registering is all part of, the whole Flare system and the F-asset system. And there's a reason why they took the snapshot and claim and all that. So you'll have ownership of that claim, and then you could probably be able to sell your claim on the whole distribution because you own it and only you own it. So I'm not going to go too far on that, but I think you could all kind of understand here that you literally have the rights to it, to one address, and you're registering it, the claim, okay, for the whole one-to-one distribution of Flare. So I don't want to go into it too much, but I think you all figured it out. Next topic, Patty.
Well, we're an hour in.
We're an hour in.
I'm getting sleepy.
Yeah, it's kind of late.
Is there anything else you want to
Yeah,
cover?
I guess that's the last thing. When do we have the 30th is the SEC thing?
Yeah, so that's this Friday, right?
Yeah, Friday. So I think that's a big day. Hey, when that's over, I think things are going to change dramatically when you can get past this. I mean, it's just you never know what's coming next.
Yeah.
So, I'm just saying, definitely, I think everyone I encourage to try to call in if you could get in, and please be respectful. Like, tell everyone else to be respectful on that call. We don't want to have a bad look for us. But I think this could be, one of those moments in history that's looked back upon that where things changed. Like, that was an event that took place that was like, okay, now this happened. Because if Ripple gets clarity, they have the resources and the network to literally just usher in crypto right into the traditional markets in ways that, other assets can't. It will literally be the only one that can be said, this is definitely not a security. So I don't know why people are going around saying that digital, decentralized blockchain networks with distributed tokens that run autonomously could be digital securities. I don't get it. So on that note, I'm going to leave. I just,
Good.
Yeah. All right. So I just encourage everyone to keep up with what's going on. I know it's a lot, but keep up. Will we self-custody our XRP, or is it held on Flare Network? We will self-custody. What do you mean by that? No one special. Will we self-custody our XRP, or is it held on Flare Network?
Oh, okay. So if they're asking for when you mint FXRP, you're giving up your XRP on the XRP ledger to whoever is providing collateral. So
you have a claim.
Yeah, you have a claim to get it back whenever you want. So like there's a redemption process that you go through, and you can come back. You basically give up your FXRP, whatever you want to give up and claim as XRP, and the FXRP is burned, and then you get XRP back on the XRP ledger.
And now that claim is tied into the smart contract on Flare, and the state connector system is able to digest all the data, so it knows that claim has to have either the collateral there in Spark or the XRP there. So that's why you're always able to get it back. It's trustless, and more so than just wrapping tokens. All right, I know that the blog was written a little like hard to understand with the agents, but now that we kind of figured out kind of what the ERC standards they're using, now it's the whole claiming and registration makes sense of how it's being done. That's why you can't ever change your initial distribution address is one of it. But we don't know exactly about Spark fully, but the F assets we kind of know. All right, I don't see any more questions. Is there a way to create a change in the network as a governance voter? Like an example, vote for Flare to burn tokens like a BAF token that auto burns 5% every transaction. Well, I'm not a big fan of the burning thing, not in a network like Flare, but yeah, there's governance is defined in a way that allows proposals to be made, and there's different majorities, levels and amount of votes. So yes, it is built to do things like that, but the design of how Flare is built I would not want 5% of the tokens being burned every transaction. Not when collateral is being used and the assets earn. Deflation is not always a good thing. It depends on the network and the use case. Like, the way Flare is designing inflation, I think would create a lot more demand than burning 5% of the supply. Because you're rewarding people for participating, which is bringing decentralized, solving one of the most important problems and the most critical points of failure, if there is failure, is the Oracle system. Like, if that has malicious attacked or is any way failed, things could get really ugly. And you're rewarding people for providing good price feeds, and you're allowing everyone to earn. So that inflation is going to the people who are, keeping the network secure, and then they're just putting it back in to earn more anyway. So this is where that inflation-deflation argument, scarcity, and then you have that as collateral anyway. So is it really better to burn and not? I don't know. It depends on the asset and the use case. With DApp tokens, maybe. But what do you think on that, Patty? Would you say burn?
Yeah, I mean, so Darks of the Moon just threw in an extra part. He said they're talking about burning transaction fees.
Oh.
Which there is some built-in parts to that.
Oh, yeah, there is. It does burn. Sorry about that then.
So, yeah, I mean, there is a governance parameter on spark to gas unit conversion and stuff like that. So I think that could apply there. There's a lot of different things that governance can vote on. So the nice thing is the Flare team is really wants whoever are the people using, whether it's individuals, institutions, small partnerships and stuff like that, they want them to drive the network. They want the people that actually use the system to make decisions. So I think it's a really interesting scenario that's facing all of us, and we're going to be in early to help guide that. So
yeah, and I think it is a very
fun.
unique launch. There is very few projects that are able to solve these two problems out the gate. Wide distribution of your token amongst a broad global group of users, right? Establish a community that is knowledgeable of crypto. That's two things. We have that with XRP and the airdrop. And 3, be decentralized out of the gate. They're able to do that because they're able to bootstrap off those F-asset networks and use the first breakthrough consensus with Avalanche to do that. And free up the native token. So those are key advantages that, have to be taken into account. And that's why, we're excited about it. And those are facts. And they're just, if, the adoption and that's realized by people, we don't know. But I think it's going to eventually be. It's just the question is the XRP community paying attention enough? Is the Doge community paying attention enough? Is Flare going to do something that, draws attention, or a partner? That would probably be the smart move.
I mean, let's put it this way: if let's say 100 million F assets are minted in the first few weeks, you're gonna have an incredible opportunity to multiply what your holdings are at the beginning. Through using FTSO staking for more F assets to be minted, and then also just minting F assets. There is a lot of yield to be had in the very beginning, especially if people don't come on. And as soon as they see, everybody that's participating doing really well for themselves, people are going to rush to get in.
Yes.
So,
and all
thing.
these,
if it starts off slowly, the rewards rate is going to be a way to attract people really quickly.
True. And we also have to keep in mind, when that snapshot was taking place, all those exchanges jumped on. So there was only, I think, 300 million that didn't get claimed by exchanges of XRP. So most of them are probably going to list Spark right away. And since they've been talking to Spark, they're probably going to just offer, their customers and clients who use their platforms, hey, just stake with us, we'll pay you, 15%. Meanwhile, they're going to go, make use another service.
50%.
Yeah, that's why they all jumped on, because they knew there's business models for them. That's why Coinbase jumped on, because they're like, yeah, this is probably smart to integrate with, an application network. And they, did. So, we shall see. But it's definitely probably the most exciting thing for those 4 communities. I don't know why Litecoin and Doge are just, head in the clouds. But XLM's kind of doing their own things with smart contracts. So, that's where I could see this kind of like a little maybe, hesitance there. But the XRP holders who hold XLM, you should be thinking about, bringing your XLM onto Flare. So,
yeah,
just a thought. And Litecoin is something to keep an eye on. All right. I think that's going to do it.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. It was
yes,
love
thank
chatting
you.
with you guys. Always give us good questions for sure. It helps with these live streams. So it's hard for us to rant for this long.
Yeah. Yep. No, you guys are great. And thank you, mods. Lantern, thank you. Excellent. And just so everyone knows, Probity and Trustline's test network is up and running. So if you want to join that, hop in Trustline Telegram or Trustline Discord and just check it out. Their interface is pretty sweet. I mean, it's just get used to it and just press buttons. So
yeah, it's just an alpha. So realize that's even before beta. So
yes, it's an
it's
alpha.
very nascent, and he's still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
That team's trying to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
So
and that's one of the most lower risk type projects.
Yeah. It
All
also
right.
looks like it's going to be pretty easy to manage. So
Yeah.
That's a nice thing.
Definitely is. All right, everyone. Have a good night.
Peace out. See y'all.